The impact of violent television on children is probably the most researched media question that there is. And there are basically three impacts. One is desensitization. So what that means is that over time, as you watch more and more violent material, you become less and less responsive to it. So you take that as kind of normative in terms of what life is like. The other is that you can imitate it or you can be disinhibited by viewing it. So we're trying to teach little children not to act aggressively, but at the same time we're showing it. So instead of inhibiting the behavior, it's disinhibited. And the third reaction is fear. There are not just perpetrators of violence, there are also victims of violence. So who do you identify with? And if you identify with the victim, you may think that the world is a pretty scary place out there and that people are going to attack you. And those are the basic three issues that researchers have looked at very seriously. There was a paper in a session I was at SRCD today where they were looking at brain activation, and it may well be that the brain itself does not discriminate between what's televised and what's real in terms of where it's encoding violent acts. So for a child, that has serious implications, that it's storing it in a very readily accessible part of the brain that can be pulled up quickly because it obviously has survival value to pay attention to something like that. If you look at who learns violent content, anybody who watches it is learning something. It may vary a little bit in terms of what you're learning. In terms of who copies it, that's the next issue. And motivational elements, there's a lot of research that shows if there are motivations for children to imitate the behavior, that they will do it. I am always amazed at exactly how much children do pick up from watching television. When we get reports from children about what they're learning, they choose a favorite program, and these are coming across online. And it's absolutely fascinating to hear what they're telling us. They tell us things about honesty, that I'm learning not to cheat. They tell us things about the environment. I learned not to pollute. They tell us the things about animals have feelings. And those are more social-emotional. And if you go into the cognitive lessons, they tell us things about, I learned how my body works, so that and then they'll go into detail. First they'll tell us a story, and then they'll tell us the overall point of what they're learning. And the depth at some of the ways that they think about the information is really interesting, and then a lot of them will tie it to their own lives. So that they'll talk about, they generalize those lessons. So it tells me that they take that information and they're looking for that social information to guide their own behavior.